That was in 2006 when I started here. But I come from the business side. I've been working in advertising, PR, and political campaign management in Iceland. When I moved here to the US at the end of year 2002, I did my master's in Boston, and then I started working for a seafood company, an Icelandic seafood company, Icelandic USA in Connecticut. And I was there as a brand manager for 2 years before I came and I took over here as the trade commissioner for Iceland in North America. And 3 years later, I assumed the duties of the Consul General as well. So after serving with Icelandic USA, the company merged with another company, and they moved to Virginia. And I decided, or was offered to come in here as a trade commissioner with the Consulate of Iceland in New York, and it seemed to be a very interesting position because it's so diverse. A small office, but Iceland, even though Iceland is a small nation, is very diverse when it comes to its business interests in foreign markets. So I thought, oh, this will be different, but coming from the business side into the diplomacy. But it's been an interesting time. What I've seen with the different nations is that they tend to keep their trade and investment people for longer than usually diplomats. Diplomats very often are moving every 3 to 5 years, but you see the trade people very often staying much longer than that. So I don't know yet. I am still enjoying what I'm doing, and it's been 12 years, and the projects are very diverse and from culture, from filming in Iceland to silicon production in Iceland. So I'm really enjoying what I'm doing.
How do you define the mission of the Consulate in general and for your nation specifically?
So for the Consulate, our primary mission is to serve our nationals well in our markets, whatever their needs are. If they find themselves in trouble, losing their passport, breaking the law, whatever it is, then we are bound to come and assist with whatever means we have to kind of pave their way and help out in their needs. On the business side, for the Trade Commission is a different mission. There we are focusing on the nation's prosperity, to work with our companies and our brands in a meaningful way in the market. We try to accomplish this by increasing positive awareness about Iceland in North America through promotions and different marketing programs. And the idea here is that the stronger the position of the Iceland brand in the market, the better capable we are of going through any kind of crisis, economic or other. But also it is easier for our companies and our brands to open doors, to knock on someone's door and say, hey, I got a fantastic beer product or a seafood product or some kind of technology. If people know about Iceland and understand better what Iceland is, this is an important task, I think, to kind of create that platform for the Icelandic brands. Well, the New York is the hub of business in the U.S. Everything, and for Iceland, it's also a proximity. It's only about a 5-hour flight from New York or Newark to Iceland. So historically, we've been doing most of our trade and investment and business here on the East Coast. But aside from that, in New York, just everything and everyone comes through New York. It's a very large market for products and services. All the other nations, they have their largest trade hubs here in New York. And we work quite a bit with many of them. For example, just on the other Nordics, we have several different projects that we work with the other Nordics. And there's also an easy access here to Toronto or Ottawa, where we are also doing quite a bit of business. The consulate, the office here, it's a small office. It's only 2 people, but we are focused on Iceland. Iceland's core industries, foreign direct investment, the startup ecosystem in Iceland, and culture. Culture is a very big part of what we do. Culture in many ways has been the wheel under the wagon that has been driving the interest in Iceland, along with Iceland as a destination, Iceland as a place of magnificent nature. So we focus on all those different issues that have to do with Iceland. We have over 50 honorary consuls in North America, because we cover both the US and Canada as a market. And so we work quite a bit with our honorary consuls on different business issues. And then, I mean, a very large part of our job is to create the network that we can use as a platform to move Icelandic interest forward. We work with, as I said, with the other Nordics. We've in the past 2 years we've set up several different projects with them. And we opened in September last year, 2017, we opened the Nordic Innovation House in New York, which is a collaboration between the Nordic countries. And we are based here at WeWorks in Grand Central. That has been an interesting thing for Iceland, because now we have a home for Icelandic startups or further along companies to come into New York, work with our mentors and get assistance that they were not able to get before. We also started a project with the Nordics called Nordic City Solutions, where we are working with now 5 different cities in the US, bringing in ideas, technology, different products and services that can help different cities in the US with whatever problems they have. This is a project that I have high hopes in, and has been it's a pilot project. It hasn't been done before. And the ultimate goal here is to bring in Icelandic knowledge and hopefully do business with US companies on various projects involving water management, logistics, health, whatever the needs are in those different cities. And then we are working on one more project, which is Nordic welfare solutions. So very excited about the Nordic collaboration here in New York and in the US and Canada, because there we are actually working North America kind of as a one market in those projects, which is very exciting. We also run the Icelandic American Chamber of Commerce. We run and manage the Icelandic Canadian Chamber of Commerce. And then we have a marketing program called Iceland Naturally, and that is www.icelandnaturally.com. And Iceland Naturally is the marketing of Iceland in North America. We have 11 members, which are corporate, and then the government. supports the program as well. This is a very interesting program. We do a lot of Iceland promotions, larger promotions that we call Taste of Iceland. And we do about 5-6 of those every year in cities like Boston, Seattle, New York, sometimes in Washington, D.C., Toronto, Edmonton, Calgary. We've been pretty much all over the North America with our Taste of Iceland events and been successful with those events, bringing in culture. And the kind of form of it is a public diplomacy or cultural diplomacy, if you will, or people's diplomacy, whatever people want to call it. And it's we are not just coming in and singing and dancing or bringing in our talent, but what we are looking to is to work with the local talent. So matching Icelandic musicians with a musician from the Seattle market, or bringing in an Icelandic chef to work in a restaurant in Boston with the Boston chef, where they create the menu together. So colliding the different cultural aspects of the two markets, having people work together and really engaging with the local community is the way we've been doing most of our Iceland Naturally projects. But we have a very large online fan base, where we kind of everything that is Icelandic and is taking place in the U.S. you can find on our website or Facebook or Twitter or Instagram. But we also promote a lot of what is going on in Iceland. So these are kind of the largest projects that we have in this office. So our office, we cover New York State, New Jersey, Connecticut, and Rhode Island. And then we, as I mentioned, host the Trade Commission for North America. The partnership with the U.S. in terms of economic relationship is and has been very strong for decades. The U.S. is a very important export market for Iceland. We import quite a bit of seafood products into the U.S., but also a lot of technology from companies like Marel and Usher and others. And then the U.S. is the largest exporter or importer into Iceland of consumer goods and services. The U.S., when it comes to goods and services, the U.S. is our largest trading partner. Most of the foreign direct investment that we've seen in the past decades into Iceland is coming from the U.S. So we have a very strong relationship with the U.S. The U.S. is also now by far the largest tourist market for Iceland. So it's for the past 2 or 3 years the U.S. has been our biggest client when it comes to inbound tourism into Iceland. And I think last year close to 600,000 tourists. It's interesting. I was reading in was it Travel Weekly that Reykjavik is the 3rd most visited city by U.S. travelers. So it's London, Paris, and then Reykjavik. And Reykjavik is before Rome and Amsterdam. So that's quite an interesting fact, and shows you the very large interest that the U.S. traveler has in Iceland as a destination. What has happened in the past 2 years, actually since 2009, when Icelandair started flying direct flights from Seattle, and then they added Denver, and then WOW Air came in, Delta started flying, United and American Airlines. Those airlines are now flying to over 20 different cities in the U.S., and then you can connect to over 40 cities in Europe. But the beauty of what the Icelandic airlines offer is that you can fly through Keflavik, you can stop over up to 7 days, and then you can continue to like I said, over 40 cities in Europe, and this is free of cost. You don't have to pay anything extra. So for many, like for the business traveler, they can take a weekend in Iceland and then go on to their meeting on a Monday or Tuesday. And for the tourist, they can do a vacation within a vacation, kind of. If they're going to a city in Europe, they can enjoy the wonders of Iceland for, like I said, up to 7 days, and then fly on to the destination. So quite a lucrative deal, I think.
Right.
We participate in culture and tourist promotion in the U.S. and actually Canada, because we cover Canada as well, in various different ways. I think our focus on public diplomacy is the way we approach the market when it comes to the cultural part of our promotions. We work through Iceland naturally in various different markets, but also here in New York with our own events, with Scandinavia House, or with the other Nordics on different exhibits and events. But when it comes to other markets than New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, or Rhode Island, where we are working with Iceland naturally, we are working, for example, on the Taste of Iceland events. Those events could be a restaurant promotion, concerts, talks and conferences on issues that have a meaning to Iceland, on, for example, gender equality, could be human rights, could be the fishery management, technology, startup ecosystem, whatever is of interest in that market, and Iceland has been working on in different venues at the UN or other. We try to work with the local community. We try to work with local artists to really engage with the locals and make it more of a collaboration and cooperation than us just coming in and talking to people. We like the conversation much better, and I think it's much more efficient, and it's more fun actually. It's more fun to get to know other people, and you get a very different relationship if you put an Icelandic musician together with a musician they have never met from Seattle, Boston, Toronto, wherever they are coming from, and they have to all of a sudden collaborate on stage, music-wise, and you get something new and you get something exciting. One of those projects that we have worked on is since 2006 is with a local radio station in Seattle called KEXP. We brought them to Iceland airwaves for the first time in 2008 or 9, and this year, actually 2018, marks the 10th anniversary of this radio station KEXP broadcasting from Iceland airwaves in Iceland, which they've done usually 3 to 4 days, 8 hours a day, live broadcast to the US market. This has been a very interesting collaboration because, again, we're not only looking at and supporting Icelandic musicians, but we are also supporting Seattle musicians or Seattle or musicians from Japan or other places, because they will find their way into the program at the KEXP and those live broadcasts from their concerts. But it makes it more interesting, and it makes Iceland kind of in the middle of this melting pot of music. One thing that the KEXP has been doing in those programs and also in the studio in Seattle is to record Icelandic musicians' live sessions. And they probably own now the largest contemporary library of Icelandic musicians, close to 300 videos that they have shot in the past 10 years, and in past 9 years actually, and those 300 videos have close to over 60 million views. I mean, that is enormous for the tiny market of Icelandic musicians. Just the sheer promotion for that industry, and they have helped bringing bands into this market, like of Monsters and Men. The first video that was done of Monsters and Men that really took off in social media was made by KEXP. So we try to find those partners that think like us, that see the benefit of cultural partnership between and creating bonds between different communities. We are a small office, but but the U.S. is our largest tourist market, and we answer questions from tourists, people interested or going to Iceland in the thousands every year. So we help people as we can with information. There's a lot of visa questions because you have to apply for, if you don't have a U.S. passport, you have to apply for a Schengen visa to get into the Schengen area, which is the European Union, Iceland. And we can kind of also help people, guiding them, like, okay, you're gonna spend this many days. Don't just stay in one place. I mean, you can go up north. You can go to the northeast, to the Westfjord, to the west, south, and east. And when you go to those places, stay there. Spend some time in those areas. Don't just rush through the circle, because you have, I mean, Iceland is so close to the U.S. and the flights are I mean, you can, like I said, fly from New York to Iceland in 5 hours. I mean, during the summertime, that's actually closer than the Hamptons here in New York. And enjoy being in Iceland. I mean, because in that area, in the east or north or west or south, the landscape is so diverse that you can constantly be finding something new, but with less stress, just stay in the same area and enjoy that area. I think that's one of the points that we make to many of the people who call us or send us email and asking what to do and how to go around Iceland. And there's websites that you can check out: Iceland.is, inspiredbyiceland.com, visit Reykjavik.is, etc. And on those websites you will find a lot of information on how to travel in Iceland and how to be how to treat the land, the nature, and etc. Yes, we have a Taste of Iceland in Seattle coming up in October. We have a Taste of Iceland here in New York City in September 27th to 30th. And we are in Toronto in November 15th to the 18th. And Seattle is October 11th to the 14th. And next year we're going to be in Boston in March and Chicago in April. This information you can find on icelandnaturally.com, and everything that we are doing, all the events and everything that is happening here in the U.S. And then you can also sign up for the newsletter Icelander on that site, where you can get all kinds of information every month on what's going on here, but also in Iceland. Then we're showing movies every month at the Scandinavia House, and there are different Iceland events happening there as well. Exhibits, and there's a lot of things that happen every month that are Icelandic in the U.S. and the best way to follow it is the icelandnaturally.com. Well, Iceland is an easy, welcoming, and a beautiful place to visit. It's a large island that offers a lot of places where you can find tranquility or or action. I mean, you really can tailor your vacation in Iceland in any way that you want. I mean, you can be on a glacier, or you can be in a green valley somewhere, just enjoying what you're seeing and the landscape. The black sand beaches, the huge waterfalls, good for Stynjandi. I mean, there's so much to choose from. On the business side, Iceland's legal framework and infrastructure is in many ways very European, just like the rest of the Nordic countries. And you will experience a very similar experience doing business in Iceland as in the Nordics or in Europe in general. And at times, I think in some cases easier. The US and Canada has had a large interest in Iceland as a location to do business, and we are seeing anywhere from film. I mean, you've seen Star Wars, Oblivion, Flags of Our Fathers, Game of Thrones, etc., utilizing the Icelandic landscape and the talent in Iceland, and then all kinds of technology and manufacturing that have chosen Iceland as a destination and a location for their businesses. And Iceland is very open and welcoming to foreigners.